Dear student, welcome to the course of Basic Genetics, and I'm Richarya. We are discussing the pedigree analysis in human genetics, and we are in continuation of discussion with the traits that are autosomal or sex chromosome based inheritance in nature. Now we are shifting a gear a little bit because I have to cover one more type of inheritance, which is not the nuclear inheritance, right? So what is it? It is a mitochondrial inheritance. And mitochondria is also something which is very important. And because mitochondria has DNA, the genes that are present in mitochondria show mitochondrial inheritance. And I know that you have understood about the cytoplasmic inheritance and maternal inheritance earlier. And so this is sort of a connecting point, and in a sort of an application base, that things that have that are affecting mitochondria could affect the offsprings, right? So you all know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse, right? It's the energy powerhouse, and this energy powerhouse also contains the DNA. So what it can do? It can divide. This is important. This organelle can divide, and when it is dividing, it is carrying its own genome with it, along. The other important point to note is that when an egg and a sperm fuse, right? When it fuse and make a zygote. So in nucleus, definitely you have the N from mother and from father. So finally it is 2N, and you're getting one set of chromosome from the mother, another from father. But the cytoplasm, which is in which this nucleus is present, is exclusively coming from mother. Remember this point. And because this is exclusively coming from mother, whatever was present in mother's cytoplasm, we are inheriting them through mother, not father. And one of that thing which is present in the cytoplasm is the mitochondria, right? So mitochondria, you already know that these organelles are present in the cytoplasm, and same is true for mitochondria. So all the mitochondria that we received, they are coming from mother, not father. Remember that, right? So if the mitochondrial DNA is having any problem in any gene, then that defective gene would also go from mother to the offspring. So that is the crux of this inheritance pattern. So how, when we look at, you already know how we are looking at different pedigrees by evaluating different parameters. So let's look at the parameter in case of mitochondrial inheritance. So in case of mitochondrial inheritance, mitochondria have their own circular DNA. I already told you. The inheritance is strictly maternal. Only eggs contribute to mitochondria and zygote. All children of an affected mother inherit the trait, right? So it will not, if the mother is affected, remember, there is a big difference. If the mother is affected, then there is no difference between male or female offspring. Both will be affected equally. Yes, I'll show you. If the father is affected, right, then none of the children is going to be affected. Why? Because I told you that you are not inheriting, or the offspring is not inheriting the mitochondria from father. So if father is having a defective mitochondria, still their kid could be normal if the female counterpart is not having any mitochondrial disorder. So if you look at the pedigree of a mitochondrial inheritance, what you will see? You will see this. So you see here, it's showing that a female is affected, and because this female is affected, all the kids are affected, female, male and male, right? And if they are marrying to the normal person without any mitochondrial defect, so you see here, focus here, none of the offsprings are affected. Why? because it was father who was affected. And when only the father is affected, then the traits do not go to the offspring. I mentioned before. Now focus here. A female is affected. And because a female is affected, both the kids, despite of their sex, male or female, they both are affected, right? Again, the same is true for, if this is a A condition, this is a B. So this is again the A, repetition of A, and this is sort of repetition of B, right? So now I hope that it must be clear to you that the mitochondrial inheritance can also be studied by using pedigree, by analyzing the phenotypic inheritance pattern in the offsprings, and that can help us understand if a pedigree is showing a nuclear pattern of inheritance, sex-linked or autosomal, or if it is showing a mitochondrial method of inheritance pattern. So there are several diseases that we may have because of defective mitochondria, like there's this. So remember, mitochondria, where mitochondria is needed, where a lot of energy is required, right? So nerves, muscles, mostly these tissues, right? You will see wherever nerves and muscles are involved, you may expect to see this kind of disorder if the inheritance is mitochondria. So one example is a neuropathy, which is Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy. So optic means eye. So what you see is a sudden central vision loss in young adults, which affects the optic nerve. The other disease is KSS, which is also an ophthalmic eye-related disorder. It is a progressive disease. Progressive disease means which worsen with age, right? So pigmentary retinopathy and also the heart block. So this kind of disorder is mostly seen in case of eye as well as heart, because the heart also requires lot of energy. So there is another disease, MELAS, which is a mitochondria encephalomyopathy. In this particular condition, there are muscles that are defective. There is MERRF, myoclonic epilepsy with red fibers, again a muscle disorder. And in this particular disorder, people that are affected seizures, ataxia, or red fibers in case of muscles. There are other number of diseases which are concerning the eye, neurons and muscles that you can study yourself, or you can make an exhaustive list for your better understanding. So I have listed a few diseases that one can get because of the defective mitochondria. Now I have actually included few practice problems so that we can now understand. Now we have, so far we already have understood all the sorts of different inheritance patterns. The only thing that we have not covered are sex-limited trait, which is a bit higher level, which require a bit higher level of understanding. And we will discuss them in our later classes when you will go for the PG training. So that is something you will learn there. And so here we are going to understand how to look at a pedigree. If you don't know, let's say in an examination, or if you are a genetic counselor, you are presented with a pedigree, or you have prepared a pedigree, and now you want to understand what kind of inheritance patterns are seen in this kind of pedigree. And some pedigrees that I have included here are those that I have included already as a specific example earlier. But I have included them again just so that we can again judge if they are also falling in any category or not, right? So let's look at this pedigree. And I have listed the things that you should check and eliminate one by one, right? So then you will be more confident about your judgment. So let's look at the pedigree. Do you think that this pedigree is showing a Y-linked inheritance? I would say no, because we can see female are also affected. There are several. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, many female are affected. So definitely and very easily, it's not a Y-linked pedigree. Now let's see if it is a X-linked dominant pedigree. So if it is a X-linked dominant, then if a male is having it, right, and Y, right, XX. If a male is having it, then all the females are going to receive this XX, right, XX over here, but they are not affected. So that clearly says that it is not a X-linked dominant disease also. Now come to the next class, which is autosomal dominant. So let's say if I consider that it is an autosomal dominant, then it may be A, and small a, right? And this is because it's a dominant thing. This is the offsprings that are going to be affected. And here, well, I'm considering heterozygous for now, but we can also write like that, right? The other allele could also be homozygous. So this is like that, right? So in that particular case, what we will see that this offspring, they are fine. All affected one will definitely have at least one affected allele, which we can just for now mark, and we will cross check if they are going to get that allele there or not. So definitely this can get this defective dominant allele. They can also get the dominant allele. This can also get the dominant allele, and mother is already having it. Kids can get dominant allele actually, maybe from both. But this condition, how can this kid can get a dominant allele when their parents are not affected? See, these ones. So that rule out the possibility that it's a dominant. This is a very exclusive case of a recessive disorder. What is a recessive disorder? Where affected offspring have unaffected parents. This is the important region in this pedigree which indicate that it is not showing any dominant type of inheritance pattern, right? And so now let's move on. So we rule out three possibilities. Now we are coming to the X recessive. So X recessive is, what does it mean? Male is affected, okay? Very much likely because this is a defective X here. But if a female is affected, definitely going to have both the X affected, right? So you can write it like that. See, I am writing it like that. You can also just use small x and capital X as a symbol. So that's just your choice, whichever way you want to write. So this is the affected female. But see, if this is an affected female for a recessive disorder, then this male is going to get 1x. Here the x will be normal, right, and y, and so 1x is coming defective. But then how can the other x be defective, right? Because this one is a normal one, and if it is a recessive, X recessive, then it has to have both the defective copies here. So that rule out the possibility of saying that this pedigree is X recessive. And now come to the X, the autosomal dominant, the last category that we still have to evaluate. So what you can see, if it is a autosomal recessive, then, well, you can already have seen that is the only category left. First thing is that. And this is the key area of marking where you can clearly see that affected female has unaffected parents. And other things we have already discussed and we have ruled out. So now we can clearly say that this pedigree is a autosomal recessive. So I hope that now you are getting the points. If we look at another example, practice problem 2, the same way I have written all these 4 types here, and then I am judging them one by one. So Y-linked, I can clearly and easily rule out there are females that are already present in this pedigree, right? This one, and this one. So it cannot be Y-linked, ruled out. Now let's come to the X-linked dominant. So if it is an X-linked dominant disorder, well, then what are the possibility? Let's say if it is an X-linked dominant, X it could be X, right? Both copies could be affected, or one copy in the female can be affected. So do you remember when we are talking about sex chromosome inheritance, we definitely see chromosomes, how they are going from one parent to another. So in case of X-linked dominant inheritance, right, and this is a XY, so all the females that we will have in the pedigree will receive the X chromosome from father, which is normal, and the males are going to receive the X chromosome from mother, right? And here, where this is not receiving this disease dominant, then it must be having a normal. So this X, then now we know that this is a normal X here. So this is a X and X, right? So if it is a X and X, which is normal, and if it is X dominant, this should also be normal, then this kid cannot have the disease, right? So now we rule out the X dominant as well. So I already disclosed my data result here, but never mind, forget. I'm not looking at the thing here, you also don't. Just look at the pedigree and resolve. So the third possibility is autosomal dominant. So if we look at the autosomal dominant, right, then what we are trying to say? That it could be A and A, recessive, right? Or rather I would say that it could be A, and I don't know what this one will be, but because it's autosomal dominant, this is definitely, this should definitely be. So what I usually do is the one that I'm 100% sure, I just write those genotypes. So if they are not showing a phenotype, they cannot have any allele which is dominant. So I'm sure that they are having both the recessive allele. So now the autosomal dominant pedigree, but you can see that, you know, this male can receive it, this one can receive it, and so there's no problem. I mean, even from female, they are receiving it. So this is, here we cannot conclude anything. We need to focus here, right? And so here, it's A, and this is normal, and because it's autosomal dominant, this should be also normal. And again, here is the offspring which is having the disease. That is why we rule out the autosomal dominant as well. Now pay attention, right? Because here comes something tricky. So if you see that if you make it as a autosomal recessive, I'm just making it for our own convenience sake. If it is an autosomal recessive, then they could be A or whatever, right? And then here definitely it is AA, 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 right? So this is autosomal recessive. All the affected members are recessive for the allele, right? And here because it is having the allele, definitely one allele is coming from here, right? And there are unaffected members also, so and this is not affected, so it's AA. And here we don't know if it is AA or it's both the alleles are affected. And here, whatever it is, you know, combination of heterozygous or something. And this one can also be AA or whatever. Capital A, small a, capital A. I'm just quickly writing, so may not be writing, very clearly. But you can see that you can put this pedigree in an autosomal recessive case. But one thing, if you again closely organize, look at the pedigree and count number of females, 3 versus male, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This pedigree is showing male to female bias. So you cannot rule out absolutely that this is not at all autosomal recessive, but you can clearly say that it is following a recessive pattern of inheritance, but it is also showing a biasness for more males compared to more females, and that is why more males compared to females, that is why it might be a X-linked, following a X-linked pattern of inheritance. So I'm just putting, like, if it is at all following a X-linked pattern of inheritance, right? So X-linked recessive pattern. So in X-linked recessive pattern means this X should be normal, and here both the X should be affected, right? So if it is a female, then both the X should be affected. If it is a male, then one X should be affected, right? So which is possible because male are going to receive the defective X from mother, and mother already have a defective X chromosome, so they can be affected. And females can be can have two X chromosomes, so females have a defective X and they also have a normal X chromosome, right? So that is very much likely XX. I just, for some quick thinking, I just put the defective allele first. You can put the normal allele first, don't worry about it. And here, if this is having, a female is having a defective allele, a male can definitely be can receive the defective one and be affected, and same is true, the male can also receive a normal one and be normal, and for the other females they can be heterozygous, right? So this allele, and these ones, there's very much, both the parents are affected, so all the offsprings are affected, there is no point in discussing it further. So you can see that this thing is falling in both the categories. So while you are answering such kind of questions where X-linked recessive pedigree is given to you, or maybe an autosomal recessive pedigree is given to you, sometimes you may not be able to rule out that it is autosomal or X-linked. And so you need to write, when you're writing your answer or compiling your data, that looking at this parameter, they are recessive in nature, but because they are showing a sex bias, I consider them as a X-linked inheritance pattern. If I would have more data, then possibly I can infer the data in a better way. So now let's come to the third and the last practice problem. This is the pedigree, where you can see the parents and you can see that male and female both are affected. So they are definitely not Y-linked. And X-linked recessive, if we think that this pedigree is X-linked recessive, then what we are expecting, that a mother is homozygous. And then if a mother is homozygous, then all the sons should have the disease, but this one is not having it, right? This son is, one son is affected, another is not. So it is not X-linked recessive. And if it is an autosomal recessive or not. So if it is an autosomal recessive or not, let's make it. So in our case of autosomal recessive, it has to be like that, right? And then this will be, if they are affected, definitely they have to be like that, right? So if they all are affected, then in this particular case, this is AA, and this is an unaffected male, so this must be AA, right? And, or AA, I should rather say. Or here is normal, maybe they are A, because here you have affected offspring, that is why this one should have, definitely have this genotype, right? And then there comes the, yeah, these are AAs and AA here, normal, so A, right? So it could be an autosomal recessive. It looks like, if I'm not doing any mistake, then it kind of looks like that it may show you an autosomal recessive pattern. But again, if you count females and males, female and male, then 1, 2, 3, 4 female, 1, 2 male. So this pedigree is also showing a bias towards the sex type of inheritance. And so if we, well, you can also check sex-linked type of inheritance. And if you look at the, let's say, because we said that the sex-linked pattern is more obvious in this pedigree, and if we make it with the, considering that it is X-linked dominant, then what will come, right? So in a X-linked dominant, which means that it is X, well, this is XY, 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 right? And this one is definitely XXY, and so X, this X. If this X is defective, the female should definitely have it, which you can see they are having it. So females are affected and males are not affected here. This is very important, clearly showing it. And here you have this defective male, so receiving X from mother, Y from father, another defective female, which is XX, dominant X, and normal X from father. So this could be any. And this one is normal, so it should be X normal, right? Oh, well, so then here we know that this X is normal, right? Because this one, this female, number 4 daughter can only be normal if it is receiving a normal X from mother, right? So this is clear case for autosomal dominant. It is satisfying all the parameters. And X-linked dominant, it is clearly a X-linked dominant, fulfilling all the parameters for this class. And if you look at this problem from the point of view of autosomal dominant, you can see that it is also looking exactly the same way. You can see that the inheritance pattern is fulfilling the autosomal dominant and X-linked dominant and somewhat autosomal recessive, but it is showing a sex bias. And because it is showing a sex bias in both the cases, because of the little shortage of time, I am not discussing the autosomal dominant way. You just write it, you already know how to do it. We conclude that it is most likely a X dominant disorder. I am not saying 100% it is, but most likely because of considering this one parameter. But as a dominant disorder, it is cutting very close to autosomal dominant as well as X-linked dominant, and in a way, some parameters it is following for the autosomal recessive. The only thing is that it is not at all skipping any generation. You can see the trait in every generation, and it is a very short pedigree. If we could have more members, probably it will be easier for us to understand if we can, most deterministically tell about one of the category. So now from this point onwards, what I have done, I have again listed and compiled all the comparisons that we have done so far. So this particular slides, I have compared the autosomal recessive with X-linked recessive traits, right? So the thing is that in case of autosomal recessive, both are equally affected. I already emphasized it, but in case of X-linked, they are not. So that is how you differentiate between X and autosome. And same is true for male to male transmission, which is there in case of autosome, but not in case of the X-linked recessive inheritance, right? And the rest of the things you can read and go through and understand. But these are the differentiating points. And same way for autosomal dominant and X-linked dominant, you can say the autosomes affecting both sex equally, but X-linked not. Male to male, you can see in dominant, but in recessive it shows a bias more for the female. And rest you can, all daughters of affected males are affected. Oh, you can't say that, but here it definitely is, right? And sons are affected. Sons of affected males are affected, of course 50-50 chances, but in case of X-linked dominant, they are not. And so these are the old comparisons that you can find in my previous classes. I just pasted here so that in a row, if you want to read and revise, you can revise them. So different autosomal types, autosomal recessive and autosomal dominant, how you differentiate, and then various X-linked type, X-linked dominant, recessive, X-linked dominant, and Y-linked, what are the differences. And so with that, I'll leave you with this pedigree question, which is about the tasters and non-tasters for particular chemicals, which is non-toxic, but some people can taste it and another cannot. And actually, you see a very neat distribution of this trait in very many pedigrees. So I request you to look at the pedigree, solve it, and if you have any difficulty in solving and understanding the pattern of inheritance, feel free to contact. So with that, I like to thank you all for your time and attention, and I hope this whole exercise of practicing pedigree would be very interesting, would remain very interesting for you. So thank you once again, and see you in the next class.